We got you covered here on Celtics Today with Celtics news, rumors, trade rumors, everything you need to know about the Boston Celtics we're talking about. So if you're all about the C's, go down, hit that big red subscribe button. Welcome into Celtics Today. I am your host, Will Scott. Hope you're all having a fantastic weekend. And on today's show, we're going to break down this rumor about the Celtics maybe entering the Donovan Mitchell trade conversations, but not trading for Mitchell, just being a third team involved in a trade. So obviously Mitchell has been in trade rumors as of late after Rudy Gobert was traded to Minnesota. A lot of rumors that the Jazz are blowing it up, might trade Donovan Mitchell. And of course, who's running things over there in Utah is the former president of basketball operations in Boston, Danny Ainge. He is now the CEO of basketball operations in Utah. And with the Celtics in need of some depth down low and also some shooting depth, could they be a third team involved in a Mitchell trade? So Fansided kind of pitched this idea. They released an article recently talking about what a trade might look like, and here's what they said. So how can Stevens and the Celtics influence where Mitchell ends up? Jumping in as a three-way trade partner would sweeten any deal Ainge may be looking for from the Knicks, who obviously have the draft capital overhaul the former Celtics president of basketball operations is looking for. He is also looking for young players and players he feels like can come in and change the culture in Utah. While more draft picks is the focal point of a Mitchell deal, a couple players on the Celtics roster who Ainge drafted could be thrown in a deal that would help all three teams. With the addition of Malcolm Brogdon, the Celtics can afford to part ways with Marcus Smart or Derek White. Payton Pritchard is expendable as well. Here is the trade idea that they have put together, a three-team trade between the Jazz, the Knicks, and the Celtics. Jazz receive 4 first-round picks, Marcus Smart, Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickley from the Knicks. Obviously, Grimes and Quickley would be going from New York to Utah. Marcus Smart from Boston to Utah. Knicks receive Mitchell, Jared Vanderbilt, Payton Pritchard. Pritchard would be going from Boston to New York in this three-team deal. The Celtics would be getting Jordan Clarkson and Obi Toppin. Now, would you do this trade if you're a Celtics fan watching, and I've just given you those trade details? Would you do this trade? Type D for deal or type ND for no deal down in the comments section. It is the pinned comment on today's video. When ad break comes, go down and let me know what you think. Deal or no deal. Here's what else Fansided said. We can leave all the salary calculations and salary cap details up to Stevens, Ainge, and New York Knicks general manager Scott Perry. But the deal gives the Celtics another versatile big in Toppin and another scorer off the bench in Clarkson. Obviously, with three teams involved, there are a number of other possibilities involving numerous players, but there is a way the Celtics can be a factor in a potential deal without targeting Donovan Mitchell himself. So here is who's coming to Boston, and here is who's leaving Boston in this Fansided trade idea. You would be acquiring Jordan Clarkson from the Jazz, Obi Toppin from the Knicks in this deal. You would be shipping Marcus Smart to Utah, Payton Pritchard to New York, 2 players in, 2 players out. But I don't think this makes the Celtics a better basketball team. You'd be losing the defensive player of the year in Marcus Smart, as well as a very young and upcoming player in Payton Pritchard, who I think a lot of us are very high on. Here is what Pritchard did last season, 6.2 points per game, 42.9% from the floor, but he's an excellent three-point shooter, 41.2%. I really like Pritchard. I also like Smart, what he brings to the table offensively. Here's what that looks like. 12.1 points per game, 5.9 rebounds per game, 41.8% from the floor, 33.1% from three-point range. But when you think of Smart, you think of the defense. Here is what he did in the regular season: 1.7 steals per game, 2.2 turnovers per game. Very, very impressive what Smart is able to do defensively. That led to a Defensive Player of the Year nod. So, yes, I understand you'd be getting Jordan Clarkson, who, as you all know, I'm pretty high on, and who I really wanted the Celtics to use their $17.1 million TPE on. However, that TPE has expired. So, yeah, you'd be getting Clarkson, who's a very, very good and productive shooter off the bench. You'd also be getting Obi Toppin, who did this in his second season, and he showed a lot of signs of improvement. 4.1 points per game in his rookie season. That jumped up to 9 points per game in his second season. He just averaged 11 minutes per game in his rookie season. Last season averaged 17 minutes per game, shot 49% from the floor in his rookie season. Then, as you can see, shot 53% in his sophomore campaign. He improved in virtually every single statistical category that makes him an attractive piece in any trade that goes down. Which is why, if there was a way to keep Smart and get Clarkson and Toppin, I would do it. Let's say you swap Marcus Smart with Derek White in that trade and make it happen. I would do it. I just don't know how realistic that is in terms of not having to trade away Smart when you're getting two pretty productive players in Toppin and Clarkson. Now, would you trade Marcus Smart if it meant getting Jordan Clarkson? Type T for trade or type P for pass down in the comments section. Go down and let me know. I don't know at this point if I would do it, and I think the Celtics missed their chance with Jordan Clarkson back a week or two ago. You had your $17.1 million TPE. You could have gotten a high-quality, productive shooter off the bench in Clarkson with that TPE. You didn't do it. In fact, you did not use the TPE on anybody. I think the Celtics missed their chance with Clarkson, and at this point, when you're considering money and financials and logistics, I don't even think it's really realistic at this point. Let's get into our next story now, and that is Luke Kornet. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the Celtics needing a backup center. Maybe they don't, according to SB Nation, saying basically pitching Luke Kornet as a backup center option. Here is what Ime Udoka said, though, at the Summer League. We've talked about adding another big, with nights where Al Horford, being a little bit older, might take a rest night, or Rob having another possible starter. We've obviously got Luke Kornet, who's grown throughout the season as well, some of the young guys you've seen. Here is what Kornet did last season in Boston, was somewhat of an NBA journeyman last season in the league. 2.0 points per game in Boston, 1.9 rebounds per game, 14 games played with the Boston Celtics. He also spent some time in Maine. Here's what SB Nation said. What the Celtics need, barring an emergency, is an innings eater. Someone who, alongside an increasingly interchangeable rotation, can maintain Boston's defensive stature and provide 10 to 15 solid minutes through the middle portions of regular season games. Kornet won't inspire significant confidence compared to Robert Williams III, Al Horford, or even the average starting big man. He only needs to be compared to Daniel Theis, though, who wasn't at his best last season. Speaking of Theis, who is now an Indiana Pacer, he was involved in that Brogdon trade. Here's what he did in his return to Boston, traded from Houston midseason. 7.9 points per game, 4.7 rebounds per game. Didn't shoot that well in Houston, shot a little bit better in Boston, 59.8%. Look, Kornet can't be the backup center, and I think SB Nation brings up a decent point when they say, well, they don't need him to be that great. They just need him to be Daniel Theis. But I think the Celtics are going to be looking for someone a little bit better than Daniel Theis was to be the backup center, and Kornet just does not have the experience that I think Brad Stevens is looking for, at least what I'm looking for, someone that can come in and fill that void that Theis left as the backup center. Now, do you feel comfortable with Kornet as the backup center? Type Y for yes or type N for no down in the comments section. Go down and let me know. Again, I just don't think he has the experience. I don't think he has what it takes to be a backup center play 17 to 18 minutes per game on a championship contender. I'm typing my in for no. Here are some free agent options when you're talking about a backup center. Hassan Whiteside is my number one target still for the Celtics. It's been like that the last 10 or so days. I want to bring Whiteside to Boston. You also have LaMarcus Aldridge as a potential option. He spent last season with the Nets, exceeded expectations after coming out of retirement. DeMarcus Cousins, he is an option as well. We talked about Dwight Howard on the show a few days ago. He played for the Lakers last season, the Sixers the year before. Yes, he's not the Dwight Howard that we saw several years ago when he was in his prime. However, he is still pretty good off the bench. And then Aaron Baines. I know that there was that report from the Boston Globe a couple of weeks ago at this point, probably 2 weeks ago at this point, that said that the Celtics will not target Aaron Baines, that they checked in on that situation. Baines, of course, suffered that horrific spinal cord injury at the Olympics, not during a game, but going to the restroom during a game. He fell, injured his spinal cord, and had to really relearn how to walk, spent months in a hospital, but he is back to playing basketball. He had a workout with several teams in Las Vegas during the Summer League, a workout that he apparently shot the ball pretty well at, but apparently the Celtics have already checked in on Baines and are not interested. So those are the 5 options right now: Whiteside, Aldridge, Cousins, Howard, and Aaron Baines, who obviously is a familiar name in Boston, played a couple seasons with the C's. Now, do you want Hassan Whiteside? If so, go down in the comments section and spam HW. I want to see a lot of HWs in the chat because he is still my number one free agent target for the Boston Celtics. We're going to have on a show this week some trade targets and free agent targets for the Celtics. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Celtics Today. Appreciate you all watching and subscribing. This has been Will Scott. Go C's.